In May 1958, when the train stopped in Bolivia at one of the stations, it was not expected that the train would stop, and for a reason that is not yet clear and incomprehensible, a French journalist jumped. He got off the train, and this was not the required station. The train departed, carrying the journalist's bag with him. After the train passed, the journalist stood at the station in amazement. What made him do that? He did not understand. He tried to call the next station to report his forgotten bags. It wasn't easy. Some children came to him selling old statues. He hesitated at first, then bought 2 statues. The journalist asked the child who was selling it from where. The child said to him, "From the city of Tiwanaku, the oldest city here." When the French journalist looked into the child's eyes, and in them were simplicity, poverty, and something strange that had no name, the journalist sat on one of the seats laughing at what had happened. He had gotten off the train for no reason. Perhaps something was waiting for this French journalist. Indeed, something was waiting for him. Tiwanaku was the oldest city in Bolivia, on the border of Peru and on a high plateau. In the south of one of the strange-shaped lakes, the lake has this strange name, Titicaca. In this destroyed city, only one thing remained, the Sun Gate. The gate is ordinary, but larger than all the models in some European museums. But it is not like that if you get close to it, and if you get closer with a magnifying glass or take pictures of it, and then magnify it dozens of times. This is what the French journalist did. When he returned to Paris, he found strange drawings. He found a naked white lady, more than one lady. He found very complex mechanical machines. If you get close to it and stick your eyes to it, you can see motors, flying saucers, and find a number of astronauts. Who are these people? Who built this gate? And for whom? And why? Where did the city go? And how was it? Since when? Another man was guided to translate these inscriptions, but no one cared about this portal before the newspapers of the world published its clear pictures. The literal translation of it, and the author of this translation is one of the Spanish researchers, says, "This was in the era of enormous animals and advanced human beings. She is of another blood. They came from distant planets and found the best place on Earth in this lake. These beings, after their distant space journeys, came and dumped their waste into this lake, without landing there in the first place. The inscriptions on the Sun Gate say, 'These beings did not forget to bring a mother, who is the origin of awareness, intelligence, and all of humanity. They found in this high location a suitable atmosphere for both their land and sea lives.' These inscriptions talk about the first mother, the first woman on Earth, and talking about this lake. The name of the lake is Titicaca, which means sacred thing, and caca means in most languages, human waste. The inscriptions describe this first woman by saying, 'She is a woman who resembles our women. It has a round head, 2 large ears, and 4 fingers on each hand. Its name is Orcona, meaning the one with the big ears. It came from the planet Venus, where the atmosphere is similar to the atmosphere on this Earth. It has a tight fit. Do not bow down, and were related to an animal that resembles a pig, or is a pig. She bore him many children. There are still tribes in this region that worship pigs. The Vatican is a repository of many rare documents. In a document dating back to the year 1625, the annihilated city of Tiwanaku is described as having disappeared from the face of the earth. All that remained of it were some stones and the remains of columns, and villages used to belong to workers and peasants. This city is the remaining trace of an ancient civilization that lived here more than 15,000 years ago. The city had multiple entrances, and when the city was struck by an earthquake and engulfed by fires, they buried their dead in Lake Titicaca. They were white people with golden beards. We must not forget that the people of these areas are American Indians. The inscriptions are all of white people with blue eyes and golden hair. It is something worth thinking and contemplating. We now come to a question related to what we are talking about, and this important question is, did the kings of Egypt have blue skin? Did they dye it blue? Why were the inscriptions of kings blue or green in color? In 1960, the Soviet scientist Kuznetsev published research on a high level of scientific and archaeological risk. The Soviet scientist resumed interpreting the phrases of the Pharaonic historian Manetho and the Greek historian Herodotus, and then he began rereading the famous Turin papyrus and the Palermo stones. He wondered again, Was there a continent called Atlantis located between Africa and America, and then it all sank? In 1960, the magazine Atlantis published a study of the Soviet scientist's research and discussed his questions. Were the people of Atlantis a blue people? The philosopher Plato quoted the leader Solon that the priests of Egypt told him about a continent called Atlantis that sank. Its sinking came after an earthquake and after a flood, and the location of this continent is what we now call the Atlantic Ocean. The pharaohs talk about people who came from the West. These people have strange shapes, sizes, and colors. It is noted that there is intense interest in the color blue, blue skin, and blue blood on both sides of the Atlantic Ocean, that is, on the shores facing the continent that sank. And in all the folklore in these regions, we find that blue blood and the color blue are specific to kings and nobles, and even when they use the olive color, they make it for nobles as well, because it is blue and green. There is another explanation that says that the continent of Atlantis had high plateaus and mountains, and perhaps its people were suffering from a lack of oxygen. Perhaps. It has been observed that this deficiency leads to blue skin. It has been observed that the blue color appears on the faces of some monkeys that live in high mountains. It is also said that the people of Atlantis migrated to the east, following the catastrophe that befell them, and it is said that some of them were powerful and that they were kings over the eastern peoples. This is the meaning of the blue color that we found in the drawings of kings and nobles in pharaonic history. Some African tribes still see the color blue as having a special meaning. Some of them dye animal skins blue for holidays and parties. The sacred major and the kings of the tribes on both sides of the Atlantic Ocean preferred the color blue or violet. The Soviet scientist says that the phrase noble blue blood must have come from ancient times, and from the continent of Atlantis in particular. If we add to that those who came from the sky came from Venus, which is blue according to the ancients, then we can say that those with blue colors also came from the planet Venus. They came to Earth with a more advanced civilization. It is not far-fetched to say that the people of Atlantis came from the civilization of Bolivia and from the city of Tiwanaku, of which only the Sun Gate remains. The Soviet scientist Kuznetsov was astonished when he found on the Sun Gate the oldest calendar in the whole world. This calendar says that the number of days in a year is 225 days. It is strange that this is the number of days in a year on the planet Venus, so how did the inhabitants of this region know that? Who knows? Maybe this lady with the big ears was the first woman in all of history. This means that this portal has transmitted to us an important historical document, and that it is a publication sent by people who lived thousands of years ago because they wanted to say something important to future generations. This means that this woman is the first female, meaning that she lived millions of years ago as well, or perhaps the inhabitants of Venus. They lived in this area for some time and tried to adapt to the climate, but they could not bear life here, so they left this trace. If this civilization of Bolivia was the first high civilization, that is, thousands of feet above the surface of the sea, and if what remains of it is only this gate, another most astonishing and strangest thing is that it is the pharaonic civilization that possesses secrets that have baffled scientists, and all evidence says that beneath these pyramids is the secret of the entire universe, and that whoever knows these secrets knows the secret of the advanced ancient civilizations that came from above, and their secret is buried beneath the pyramids.